Hello. I invite you to continue this series of calm reflections on the book Our Home by André Luiz, a spiritual account of life after death, responsibility, and the maturation of consciousness through work. Chapter 31 is titled, The Vampire. This is one of the most shocking, and at the same time one of the most demanding chapters in this part of the book. It does not describe the organizational work of the colony or the daily tasks in the rectification chambers. Instead, it touches upon a very serious moral problem: the responsibility for life, and the consequences of actions that for years may be justified by human pride, hypocrisy, or a falsely understood sense of duty. This chapter also reveals something extremely important. Not every suffering can be immediately healed. Sometimes the first step toward help is becoming aware of one's own guilt. During the night shift, André and Narcissa work without a moment of rest. Some patients ask for relief. Others need magnetic passes or spiritual encouragement. At one point, André hears cries coming from one of the nearby pavilions. Narcissa stops him from going further. She explains that there are spirits there suffering from disturbances connected with abuses in the sexual sphere. Their condition is so painful that the young worker is not yet ready to witness such scenes. André begins to understand how complex and difficult the world of spiritual regeneration truly is. Shortly afterward, a guard named Justino comes to Narcissa. He informs her that near the great gate leading to the agricultural fields of the colony, a miserable woman has appeared. She is begging for help and shelter. However, the guard could not bring her into the colony. He noticed mysterious black spots surrounding her, signs indicating a very serious spiritual condition. Narcissa decides to see the situation herself. When they arrive at the gate, André sees a devastated woman dressed in rags. Her body is covered with wounds. Her face is filled with despair. She begs for help and asks where the promised paradise of the chosen ones may be found. André feels deep compassion. Narcissa, however, perceives something that he still cannot see. Around the woman appear dark stains, spiritual marks of her past actions. The matter proves to be serious enough that Narcissa calls the chief guard, Brother Paulo. When the guard arrives, he explains something that deeply shocks André. The black stains represent 58 human lives. 58 children whose lives this woman ended. She had been a physician, a gynecologist. For years she performed abortions, justifying her actions as help for women in difficult circumstances. In reality, however, as the guard explains, she took the lives of many beings who had the sacred right to begin their earthly experience. André tries to understand this situation. He remembers medical cases in which saving the mother's life required dramatic decisions. But the guard explains clearly. This is not about tragic situations in which doctors must make difficult choices. It refers to the conscious and repeated destruction of life, for convenience, financial interest, or the appeasement of human conscience. That is why such heavy spiritual burdens have formed around this woman. Narcissa, moved by compassion, asks if the woman could be received into the colony. The guard refuses. Not because mercy is absent, but because spiritual help requires one fundamental condition: repentance, awareness of one's own mistake. Meanwhile, the woman does not regret her actions. She considers herself innocent. Even more, she believes herself to be good and pious. When the guard mentions her deeds, the woman reacts with violent anger. She accuses him of lying. She insists that her entire life was devoted to helping mothers. She is convinced that she deserves heaven. She does not want to hear about work, healing, or the need to repair her mistakes. She wants an immediate reward. At this moment, one of the deepest truths of the chapter becomes clear. The most difficult spiritual illness is not suffering. It is the lack of awareness of one's own wrongdoing. A person who does not see their own faults is not yet ready to be healed. For this reason, the guard must refuse her entry into the colony. It is not punishment. It is simply the consequence of the state of her consciousness. The woman who moments earlier appeared weak and desperate suddenly changes her behavior. Her mask falls. She walks away with pride and anger. Not like a sick soul, but like someone convinced of her own innocence. After she leaves, the guard explains the meaning of the event to André and Narcissa. He calls this woman a vampire. Not in a literal sense, but in a spiritual one. For years she lived at the expense of other lives. And now she continues to feed on her own illusions and justifications. She has created a hell for herself. And yet she believes she deserves heaven. Chapter 31 reveals one of the most difficult spiritual lessons of this book. Mercy does not mean the absence of responsibility. True spiritual help does not consist in ignoring moral law. It means guiding the soul toward the truth about itself. This chapter also reminds us of several very important truths. That every life has sacred value. That our actions leave real marks upon the consciousness of the spirit. That true spiritual help requires repentance and the willingness to change. That one of the greatest obstacles to spiritual growth is pride and hypocrisy. And finally, that human beings can create their own hell through their thoughts, decisions, and actions. This is a very difficult chapter. Not because it describes evil, but because it shows how easily a person can justify their own mistakes, and how long one may live in the illusion of innocence. And it leaves us with a very important question. Are we able to look honestly at our own lives? Are we ready to recognize our mistakes before suffering forces us to face the truth? In the next chapter, André Luiz will continue discovering the mechanisms of spiritual regeneration. The journey continues. See you soon.